G'day, this is Donna and welcome to another process video from Craft With Us. Today we're making this beautiful inlaid card with that mandala design. To start off with, we're going to use an A5 piece of card folded in half to give us an A6 size card. We've got our base, these are the die cuts that I've already cut out just to save us a little bit of time from a die cut that I can't actually tell you where I got it from because I can't remember. Sorry. But that's the die cut there. It actually came as a set of 4. So if anyone knows where that came from, please let me know. We're going to, of course, have our base mat, which is 10.2 centimetres by 14.5 centimetres. And that top little piece that's going on our base piece is 7.5 centimetres by 13.8 centimetres. And then we've got those little bits of scraps that we're going to use as well. So you can see here that I'm just moving aside the grey mandalas, but I've cut out a couple in black and I've got a couple in grey. So that goes with my grey background and the pale pink paper, scrapbooking paper that I'm using for the top. So all I'm doing here is just doing a little bit of planning. So I just want to have a look and see where I want to have this laid out. So I like to do this because I'm a bit of a planner. I'm not one of those wonderful people that can just put it all together. I've actually got to plan out where I'm putting everything. So here I've actually glued down the 3 of the grey ones and 1 black one in the corner there, but you can see that I have not and will not be sticking down that last one there because we're actually going to do the inlay with that black one there. So I'm just lining up my mandala so it's in the center. Now with this particular die cut, it's easy enough because you can't actually see it there, but there's like little peaks and troughs, and so I've been able to match up a peak and lay it straight down there. I just like to use a little bit of washi tape to attach it to the page that I'm cutting out, and you can see now that's after I've put it through my die cut machine. It looks like someone's taken a bite out of the side. Now I'm just going to trim off the excess mandalas that are going over the side of my card because clearly I don't want them sticking off the outside of my finished product. So now I'm just going to flip it over so everything's stuck down, and that's my mandala that's actually going to fit in that hole. So I'm doing this from the back side because I'm actually going to cover it with double-sided tape. So you can see that I've got my double-sided tape already on my arm there, and I am literally going over totally over the back of that mandala. I've taken out all the little pieces and over onto my card there, the paper that I'm using, you know, the top pink part. So now I've done that, I've covered the whole thing, the whole mandala, you can see that. And I've actually, although you can't see it really well in the video, I've just put strips of tape around the outside. Now, normally if you've seen any of my other videos before, you'll know that I pull up either corner and then put it down. In this case, you can't do that. You've got to remove all of the tape because you've got all the tape over the back of the mandala. So when you remove the tape, and I'm just sticking it down here, you will be able to see the tape through the holes where you took out all in the negative space of that little black mandala. But we're actually going to fill that with all the pieces out of another one that we're going to cut. So let's just move that to the side for a moment and let's get making our pieces to go in. So that's just a bit of scratch paper, by the way. This is just photocopy paper that I have. It's just old, pre-loved. So I'm going to be using that, and this is a strip of the grey that I've just put double-sided tape all over the back of, and then there's also a strip of the pink. You could in actual fact use those sheets at this point, but I didn't have any handy, so I just used strips of double-sided tape and it works just fine. So you can see that all I'm doing is just putting that on my printer paper, folding over little bits of tape there where I've taken the tape off the back of the pink, and sticking that right up next to the grey. So I'm butting that up. There is no space between the two of those. I'm just going to cut that out because it's going to make it a little bit easier to handle. So it's this piece that we're actually going to cut the mandala and use the negative space out of. So what I'm doing here is I'm once again lining up that mandala with the center. So I've got the grey on one side and the pink on the other. And I'm lining that up nice and neat. And then I'm going to stick that down with some washi tape again, and that's also going to go through my die cutting machine. What's really important is that you make sure that that's well secured here. And when I put this through my die cutting machine, I actually put a metal shim in there as well, because it's a very fine, it's an intricate die. So quite often, you know, you have to make sure all the pieces are cut. But I also want to make sure that all of the pieces, or as many of the pieces as possible, will actually stay in there, because I want all the negative pieces to stay in the die cut. You can see there that there's a couple that have come out, and I'm just pushing them back in. And then I'm going to remove the positive space. So the space that we would normally use, there we go, I've taken that out. You can see there's a couple of pieces still in there, but that's okay, because we're going to be able to take them out in a little while and put them back in. So the reason that I wanted that negative space to stay in the die cut is because now I'm going to very carefully put that on top of the die. Now, that's already there, the die cut that's already there. So when you do this and making sure that everything's in, you've got to make sure, I actually like the opposite colour. So I've put the pink on the outside, so it goes over the grey, and then the grey on the inside, do you know where the pink would normally be, because it gave a nice effect. So I just lined that up as close as I possibly could. But then with the nature of dies, all you need to do is spin that around just a little bit, just slightly move it around until you can feel it kind of like clinking into place like a cog. So once it's in place, I can then start pressing down. So I press down, because remember, we've got all of that double-sided tape in there that was exposed from where we put it completely over the back earlier on. So I'm just using my tweezers here. You can see I've got my pick tool there beside me as well. I use that. I also use a skewer, a Sante skewer, which I think is what I'm getting now. Yep, I use the end of that. And I'm just pushing all of the little negative space pieces that is in that die cut onto my piece there. And then when you pull it off, you can see that they're actually filled in there. It's a little bit tricky to see there at the moment, but you will be able to see that a little bit later on when you see a close-up of it. So I'm just pressing everything down, tidying up all the little bits and pieces. There's only a couple of pieces that weren't in there quite right. And then I've just taken the other pieces out of the mandala that we'd cut out, and I've just put it all in there, just pressing it down. I love the feel of this. I'm a very tactile type of person, so I love, you know, feeling all of the different textures. So that's the mandala that we cut out, and you can see it's half grey and half pink, so you can use that for a future project. We'll just put it aside for now. You can see there, now that I'm holding that up closer, we've got the pink out on the grey side, and then the grey, of course, is on the pink side. It looks lovely. All I'm going to do now is add my greeting. So this is just going to say thanks. I've been in a thank you card mood lately. You'll see the next couple of videos have got thanks on them as well. So this is actually a technique that I learned from Jennifer Maguire on YouTube, and I just love it. I'm not exactly sure if it's because I get to use up all my small pieces of scrap paper or because it looks so good. It's probably a combination of both. So I've actually stacked 4 words. I cut out thanks 4 times and stacked them on top of one another here. Now I'm just adding some glue on the back, using my tweezers and positioning that on my card. So I decided to put this one at a little bit of an angle, and I think that looks quite swish. All right, a card is not complete without a couple of bits of bling. I'm just going to pop that underneath. That's the A plate from my Cuttlebug, just to make sure that it's all nice and flat. So now it's time to attach that card front to the actual black base of my card. So this is actually a piece of craft foam that I've cut just a little bit smaller than my front piece. And I'm doing this a little bit back to front today. I'm actually attaching that to my card. You can see here I've lifted the tape on opposite corners, and then I can position the card, press down those corners, and then just pull out my double-sided tape. So what this enables me to do is to make sure that it's always nice and straight. So now I'm going to do the same. You can see that I've got the tape here on the other side of my craft foam as well. So I'm just lifting the corners on the opposing corners once again. So this way, instead of putting this onto my card front, I'm actually going to put my card front onto the base there where the tape is to make sure that it's all lined up. I should have a nice black border all around the edge. Just excuse my head there for a minute. And once I'm happy with the positioning, we're just going to pull that tape out. So that gives us an almost finished card. Of course, for me, I've always got to add a little bit of extra of something. So here's some of my Judikins diamond glaze, which I'm totally in love with. I'm putting that on the top of my greeting on the word thanks, nice and thick. So when it comes out, it's actually white, but it dries like crystal, like glass. It gives a beautiful shine. So now I'm just grabbing my Winker Stella, and I probably should have done this before I added the other pieces of my mandala, but I'm just very carefully going over the black section of the mandala, not the negative space, on the positive space. That didn't take very long at all. A little bit fiddly, this card, but so worth it. And then I thought, well, I'm just going to add a little bit of Winker Stella to the other black one. I didn't to the greys. I only added them to the black. Okay, so you can see there it's a little bit tricky to catch on camera, but you can see the nice shine of the thanks and then the little bit of glitter on the mandalas themselves on those two black ones where I've added the Wink of Stella. I actually made this card again in black and gold with an old book page, so I've got some photos of that at the end for you as well. So here's our finished card. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial today. Please send me any questions that you may have. Just write them in the comments section. And if you've enjoyed it, please like and you can subscribe. Catch ya.